Hey guys, we're back. Sorry about that. Hopefully, we will get back going. I don't know what's going on. Is it the weather? Is it the Wi Fi? We'll see. Thanks everyone for joining back. Billi is here. We will continue the conversation. I will still continue to try and pin her information. I don't know how to do that yet. But yes, we're back to Sunday edition of In Conversation With. I've been chatting with Billi Richards-Alexander. Let me see if I can go ahead and add her in now. Hopefully it'll work this time. It won't be choppy. Hey.
Hi.
The good?
Yeah, I think we're good. I feel
Okay.
good. Okay.
Actually, have your earbuds for a little bit of feedback now,
Okay, hold on.
but you look great.
Hold on 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Let me know if this sounds strange too, because these earbuds pick up a lot of outward exterior noise. So.
Okay, fine for now. Also, I am on the first floor in the front of my building, so there may be trash cans slamming. There guy with music. Whenever I hear lots of people driving by blasting their music, I'm like, oh, it must be a nice day today. So
New
I'm
York.
worried. um, okay, so we were talking about just how you got started and
Yeah,
everything. So
yeah.
what was your first job out of college really working in your field?
I started weirdly enough interning. Well, not sorry, yes, okay, that's the first one. I started interning with this magazine company called Wax Poetics. That is since it's a music magazine and it's almost like an encyclopedia of really, really prolific and historical music that kind of set the tone for what's out there right now in terms of like soul music, jazz music, funk, hip
Yeah.
hop, anything that was ever sampled in life, they've probably covered it in terms of a story.
Oh, that's so cool.
Um, yeah, so that was my first thing. I remember like I just always loved their vibe and loved their vision. So um, I was like, well, how can I infuse like what I love with the other thing that I love? So I went out of my way to like reach out to them and say, I'm a graphic designer. I would love to, and I also loved paper. I love magazines still at the time, but still also not at the time. But so I reached out to them and asked them if they were looking for interns, and they said yes, and they brought me on board, and it was like a little chop shop in Brooklyn at the time in Dumbo, right on Front Street. And this was of course pre-Sandy, so it was a different vibe down there too.
Right.
There were a lot of like agencies down there, a lot of magazines down there. So yeah, that was my first internship, and it was really fun and really dope, and it was really exciting, and I got to work on the layouts and things like that for the magazine, and I got to just look at photography of like these amazing artists who I'd already loved. So that's the thing, I have to always connect with
Yeah.
my subject. Like I can't, it's really hard for me as a designer, as a creator, as an art director, creative director to even like attempt to design or work with anything that I'm not invested in or moved by. So that's kind of how I choose nowadays my clients and people I work with, but also back then it was the same thing even if I wasn't getting paid for it. Like with Wax Poetics, I really connected to the music and I really connected to the people behind the magazine too. I love their vibe, I love their energy. So it made it easy to connect to the story that we were trying to design to.
Right. Because it was kind of
Yeah.
like anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It was already there.
Well, so I actually wanted to touch on something you said that projects and clients with things that you already believe in, products or brands or whatever that you already kind of like have a vibe for, you like already. So how does that come into play? I know you've worked full time for brands as well as a contractor. So how does that work in terms of, I guess maybe more on the contract side, but you can speak to either. But as a contractor, sometimes we just have to get the jobs we can get. So are you
Hmm.
still to really be as discerning, and how are you able to kind of navigate that with
What do you
product
mean? Like,
that because you said you really want to be connected to, so I guess the question is, have you ever had
yeah.
where, you kind of needed the work more than you could be as discerning with the brand
Oh,
that
yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. I think, yeah, in general, I always like to, like I said, partner, work for, collaborate with people that I connect with from jump. Like, if there's no connection there, it's going to be really hard for me. It's really bad, but it's just going to be really hard for me to create with them. So in general, I'm always looking for an opportunity to work with people that I like, or brands that I like or could get on board with. So that said, I've been really blessed and really fortunate to have worked with a lot of those kinds of people. A lot of the brands, like, I most recently with Marc Jacobs, like, always loved, that vibe, love fashion, obviously love that level of fashion,
Hmm.
so yeah, I may not have always interacted with Marc Jacobs, but I love the idea of it. So it made it easier for me. But at the end of the day, just because I'm working for them doesn't necessarily mean I agree with everything. So to your point, yeah, like, I think that having that foundation of like liking the brand at its core level, that helps to mitigate any kind of, if there's differences in opinion in terms of like executing on a creative or something like that. I think that helps, because at the end of the day, I go back to, well, why am I here? Why do I like this brand? What am I doing here? Okay, well, I like fashion, and I like his voice as it relates to fashion. It's very different.
Yeah.
He's a New York icon. Like, there's just certain reasons, like, even when I get annoyed or we're not agreeing, things are not vibing. I go back to, why am I here? Why am I in this seat? Why am I in this building? And it's because, like, I like the product, or I like the vibe, or I like the brand and things like that. So I guess, yeah, like, to answer your question overall, like, I can't, like, I've been really fortunate that I have never worked with anybody I didn't like. I have never worked with a brand that I didn't appreciate on some level.
That's
So
awesome.
it, like I said, it makes it easy. It makes it easy to, when you connect with something on a personal, authentic level, it makes it that much easier to work and want to produce dope work for them. It makes it easier to tell that story, because you are that consumer,
Right.
especially coming from, the place where the spaces I navigate, which is like beauty, fashion, and lifestyle, and most recently
Hmm.
wellness. It's like, I'm already that consumer, so it makes it easy for me to understand what they're looking for, regardless of, um, technically, or how we execute it. Our opinions may be different, but yeah, I've never, blessed to have never really worked with anybody that, or worked with any brands that I'm like, oh, I don't know what the heck we're gonna do here. Like, it's, so
That's good. Okay, so
yeah.
like a day in the life, or I'm sure your days are never the same, but generally speaking, for any one of the brands, what is it like for you working as a creative director and or art director? How does that process work for you with any of the brands?
Yeah, so with any of the brands, and like you said, I think you mentioned something about being in-house versus contractor. So, um, the vibe, the process is a little different when you're in-house versus, consulting and kind of freelancing with folks. But in general, it always starts with, partnering with the internal marketing teams to come up with, so that they're coming up with the brief and trying to identify like the key ideas and messaging around a product or an event or initiative that we're trying to launch. So it's coming up with that first kind of creative strategy, like, who are we speaking to? How are we speaking to them? How long are we speaking to them for? What are the products that we're trying to push? What are, a lot of times when it comes to beauty, like, what's the benefit of this product and things like that. So it's all like getting the logistics first, as like, what are we trying to say? What are we trying to tell these people? And why are we trying to sell it? Why do you want to buy this product? So
Right.
that's off the top. That's the first thing. Then that all gets kind of funneled and filtered into a brief. And it comes back to my team, which is more so like the creative services team or the marketing team if I'm in house. And we come back and take it, we dissect it, we ask the questions we need to ask about it. Like, is there creative that supports this? What kind of creative are you looking for? You know, all the questions. What photographers do you have in mind, if there are any in mind? Like, what
Mhm.
is the vibe? What is the visual? What's the visual arc here? Like, what are we saying from a visual perspective? Sometimes they have that information and they're very prescriptive about it.
Mhm.
Especially, I find that to be the case with a lot of like more established brands.
Mhm.
But then some people are super like, hey, just take the brief and see what you come up with. So, and we've partnered together.
Freeing, like really? I
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, well, yes, it's super freeing, but it's also kind of hard. It's challenging, right? Because when someone gives you a creative like prompt and says go with it, you're
Yeah,
like, I don't know. What do you have in mind? Because
my mind or in your brand.
right, because in my mind it's a completely different thing. I'm sure in your mind. I mean, we're and at the end of the day, like they hired me or we are hiring each other for a reason.
Yeah.
So at on some level, we already kind of align. But when you need to get into like the meat and potatoes of what this creative is going to look like, it wastes a lot of time going back and forth if the brief is not clear and if like the ask isn't clear. So I find that to be the case a lot of times. Um, I guess in-house and contracting too. Like you just always want to get all of the information you can about the product, what we're trying to say, what we're trying to achieve here. So that, and then if there is any kind of inspiration that you have, let me know because I'm going to use that to create, go off and create and come back to you with a few options. So that's a big part of it is having that brief process kind of intact as much as it can be. And then, yeah, from then on, it's just concepting. It's a series of throwing ideas at a board. Like it's literally like throwing noodles and seeing what sticks. Like I always say that. It's like, let's throw everything up there. Let's see what happens. It could be crazy. It could be, there's times I've had ideas and I walk into a meeting and people are like, I don't know why you would even bring that in here. And then sometimes I hit it right on the nail out of the gate. Like it's like, oh my God, you got the vision. You got it. And then it's so weird because then you're like all pumped. You're like, yeah, I crushed it. I nailed that pitch, right? And then you walk out and then you go kind of further develop it. And then they're like, nah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yes. So your process, I know you work with the team. A lot of times you are like the team lead and you have people
Yeah,
reporting. I guess
yeah.
personally, with the team, how do you find inspiration for lots of these different things? Like, where do you get your
For
from?
well, my personal inspiration is different sometimes from the creative that is being asked of us.
Okay.
Um, my personal inspiration comes from, like I said, I always go back to like music and the way music makes me feel, and art, and just being who I am, and the people I surround myself with, friends and family. Like my inspiration comes from my own goings and comings on. But like in terms of like at work and dealing with clients, it definitely, the first thing we do is go to competitors. Like, what are the competitors doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely first and foremost because you want to see where you sit within the market.
Right.
So it's always about like, well, what is so and so doing, or how are they rolling out for, quote unquote quarantine? Like, like I have a client right now who they're kind of restructuring things to now speak to like this at home vibe. Like, how can you do everything at home that you would do at outside? So now it's trying to figure out, well, what are other brands like that doing at
Yeah.
home? How are they rolling out their at home messaging, and what's the tone of voice, and how far are they going with it? So it's always, I think, the first part of inspiration when it comes to like working with clients and their vision. Because, at the end of the day, my name, I always say this too, my name is not on the outside of the door. Like it's their name. So it's up to me to kind of be a brand ambassador through their eyes and like understand their needs before my own. With a level of they hired me for a reason, right? So yeah, I think it's always about, for me, first and foremost with the team, I always go back and say, let's see what so and so is doing. Let's get a pulse on what the competitors are doing, and get even more granular as to how they're doing it, when they're doing it. And this goes across all kind of channels. So part of my job is to work across all channels. Like a lot of the brands I work for are omni-channel, so mostly digital, which is social media, e-com, all that stuff. But then, how is it going to look in store, and how is it going to look if we do a pop-up event? So it's always like just getting like starting with competitors, but then also understanding what the market is doing overall, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to go, I don't remember exactly what you said, but your point was essentially yes, you are working for this brand, but they have hired you for a reason. And so
Yeah.
I go a little bit into your reason or your motivation to do what you do. I know aside from this, we've talked a little bit about like the narrative within beauty and fashion, but would love to
Mhm.
hear kind of, you know, beyond the brand and the amazing clients you've worked for, what's your personal like why for doing this?
I would say my personal why, which is
Or
kind of started back, pardon?
why or motivation or both?
Yeah, I think the why slash the motivation, the why is just because I love to do it. You know, I always say most of the time it doesn't feel like I'm working. I mean, yes, I'm working, but you know, I'm super grateful that I get paid to create, which is awesome.
Oh,
And I get to, you know, I get paid to kind of come up with ideas, which is really fun. So I think that's my why. But I think the motivation for it specifically is a lot of times you don't see women like me. You don't see us in the spaces that I've been fortunate enough to try and move into.
yep.
A lot of times I am the only Black woman on the team. And I always say that, you know, like a lot of times, not so much these days, but back in the day, that was the truth. So it's funny to, that's always been the motivation to like, bring awareness that hey, we're creative too, we have ideas and we have something to say, and this is a narrative that you should try and get behind, or at least try and cater to a little bit, because we're representing half of your business. So you have to have the people in those spaces to speak to those people, and you can't just you know, like piggyback on, you know, buzzwords. I sound very passionate and almost annoyed about it, but you can't like piggyback on buzzwords like inclusivity and diversity if you're not like walking the walk. Like you have to have somebody in the office that's going to actually, you have to have a black, if you're going to talk to Black people, you got to have Black people in the office. You have to have Black people at the table making those decisions with you. You know, I'm on set half the time and like, well, most of the time, and it's like there's nobody else on set that looks like me, or if it is, they're not in a position to like say, hey, that's kind of odd, you
Right.
know, or
Point. Like you've been doing this to the point where you're making decisions on these things, right?
yeah, for sure.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, like, and I think like I said, I'm always just, I never take that for granted, because part of it is like I can't always look at it through my own eyes, right? Like I always have to consider the consumer, which is not just me, it's not just you, it's everyone. So I do that. There's a lot of responsibility that goes with that, but you know, like having being in a position of leadership to kind of call out, raise my hand and call out and say, or not even raise my hand, just like say it, because you have to. Like you have to say what feels weird, like how, why would we do that? Like it's just, you have to ask these questions. Sometimes it really gets that, like, just straight up, like, I don't think that's gonna fly. That's not gonna fly. I don't think that's gonna work. So it's like really being in a position. I'm really fortunate to be in a position, and I want more of us to be in a position to say and speak up when something doesn't look right. I'm not gonna mention a brand that I worked with recently, but there was something that uh, potentially could have gone live that thank God did not go live, but it made me feel a kind of way. So if
Yeah.
it makes me feel the kind of way, I'm sure it's
You're
gonna make somebody,
represent a very big part of their market, I'm sure.
oh yeah, for sure. So it's like,
Well, I was going to say, how did that go? Like when you raised your hand and were like, hey guys, I don't know about this. What was the reaction? Because I think being one of few in your space, it could either go like, oh man, we should have thought about this. This is why we have her here. Or it could say like, yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So how did that go?
yeah.
Brought that up.
No, I think in general, everyone at in that moment, it was a very quick moment too, but it was just really sobered me up and reminded me of where I am and the spaces that I'm in. So they were super open. They were like, "Oh yeah, totally, I could see that," and I had to explain it. I
Yeah.
don't want to say the name or who it was, but I had to, because I don't know some people, but I had to explain it. I said, "Well," they were like, "Why? What do you mean? This looks like, you know, this is just it's just something she's wearing." I'm like, this could be weird because A, this is like a flag and this weird, and then the model is like, it just doesn't make sense altogether. So
Yeah.
it just made me feel kind of way. But in general, I think people were very open to that. They're open to having those conversations because, like, at the same time, like you said, I am there for a reason. I don't think I'm there just to be the Black girl on the creative team. I actually am there because of my skill set and the experience I have to date. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I'm learning as I go. But like, I think having that is one place that definitely they're happy to have me there. So me saying that was an open dialogue, and it was an honest dialogue, and I felt good and comfortable sharing my views and opinions. And because of that, we didn't push something live because of that. And it goes back to especially like everything that's been going on, you know, a little bit before COVID, but like the whole like, didn't someone catch this before it went live? Like the whole H&M thing and like
So many things.
there's so many things. So if there's people at every level of making these decisions,
Yeah.
at every level from concept to execution to being on set, if somebody can say, "Hey, I don't know how this got that far, but this is kind of culturally insensitive.
Yeah.
We should probably pull back from this idea or redirect it and rethink it or pivot to something else." So,
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Reminder, I'm here with Billi Richards-Alexander. Awesome, the amazing, talented Billi.
oh,
Feel free to drop questions in as we go. But I want to kind of keep going on this topic, Billi. So you've been working with, you know, some pretty notable brands for a while now. Have you always felt like, you know, you were in the space and voice, hey, this may not work, and people would react to it? Or was it, you know, even if it was early on in your career, sorry, someone to pick construction out there, career, was there, you know, a point where you kind of felt like a little bit apprehensive to kind of raise your hand, and how did you get through that, if so?
I think, yeah, for sure. And I think I'm still working on that, you know, especially as I become more, taking more ownership and leadership of bigger and larger projects as I go. Yeah, my voice wasn't as loud and profound back in the day. You know, I would let some stuff go, or I would not even see it because it's not even on my level of anything that I would interact with. So I think, yeah, my voice creatively has grown with my confidence level as well as I went from, you know, just graphic designing to now leading teams to now building teams, not just in office, but on set and collaborating with folks too. Because at the end of the day, also, it's not, you know, I don't sit there and I'm not the final end all be all. This is a collaborative project, and that's massive. That's a massive part of all of this. It's like we're all collaborating. So if the photographer sees it one way and I see it another way, and this is far beyond like any diversity or inclusivity kind of conversation, but it's like if I see it one way, um, you know, that's a conversation to be had. So I think as I move further and further into my career, I get stronger and stronger in my voice and feel more confident in speaking up about how I feel this could be done better, or maybe like giving props where they're due, like, hey, that's really great. I love how we did that. So yeah, I think I think that having that thanks, Dash, having that kind of creative ownership and growing that. And you know, there's times like I'm still challenged a lot of times, like because now I'm going into bigger rooms and
Yeah.
I'm putting bigger ideas out there. And you know, where when I'm home or I'm at the office and I have my like kind of personal time to create, I'm thinking this is like, oh my God, this is gonna be so amazing. This concept, they're gonna love it. They've never seen anything like it. Take it. And they're like, yeah, no. And that's a confidence killer, you know.
Yes.
So you have to, you know, this story, you know. So you have to kind of step back, kind of humble yourself and say, okay, cool, cool, cool. Well, what I've learned in the past is that too, ask the questions. Why didn't you like it? Don't just step back and say,
Yeah.
okay, cool. You know, you want to also ask, well, what didn't you like about it? Because now now it pivots that back to the person, because some people don't know how to communicate why they don't like something.
Oh yes. I've been.
Yeah, you know that story. So some folks don't know, like, oh, this is trash. I don't like it. Well, why don't you like it? Tell me. And I think that helps as a creative, especially you and your creative pursuits too. Like, give me feedback give me tangible feedback that I can take and now not waste the next round of concepting, and bring you
Mhm.
something that you can stand behind and bring you something that you're going to like. So
Yeah.
I think also not only just honing in on my voice about I disagree, here's what I think, but it's also like, okay, you disagree, you're the person that's the end all be all, why don't you like this, tell me more. And you're
Mhm.
forcing them to kind of communicate
Yeah.
why they don't like it, which I find to be super helpful. But it all takes confidence too. You know what I mean? Like I had a, it's hard for me to still, even, sometimes I walk into these spaces, I'm like, oh my God, just pray for me. But like, it's hard for me sometimes, but at the end of the day, I think it's a muscle. You just got to practice it.
Yes. I walk into spaces all the time where I like, Lord, please just work this out. Let me say what I need to say. Like, help.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you say? You said something. Oh, I was going to say that I think you brought up a good point, not just for people on your side or our side where we are part of a team, but I think as the higher level like leaders who are giving the feedback to us, I think that's a really good challenge. And just think, but something to keep in mind is like, make sure you give clear feedback and constructive feedback. And if you don't know why you don't like it, that's fine, but let's talk about it together, because you just telling one of us or any creative contractor like it doesn't work, but you don't tell us why, it doesn't really help either of us. Like we don't know
Yeah,
what is wrong with this one to
right.
pivot and make. So we have a
Yeah,
question.
no, yeah, for sure.
What is the next challenge that you want to take on?
Well, I'm trying to work on kind of establishing what a personal, like my brand looks like, outside of it, yeah, being connected to like a specific brand, or if I'm in-house somewhere, if I'm consulting with someone, I'm working on trying to establish like what Billi's personal brand looks like, as it relates specifically to like my own agency or my own collective of artists and people and a community that we would kind of come together and create, based off of like a unified aesthetic. So I think it just, yeah, just kind of that's the next project that I'm working on right now that I'm I constantly all day, all night think about, just like what does that look like? How do we show up in the space? How can we be different from who's out there right now?
Mm-hmm.
And within obviously fashion and beauty, wellness and lifestyle spaces, but working on like developing a strong creative aesthetic and opinion that we would have folks come to us for specifically for that aesthetic.
So
For instance, it's like,
no,
no,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. You
I would
good.
there's some key elements of your aesthetic, but I also want to hear your for instance. I want to hear that too.
Oh, for instance, like one of my, this is, I mean, everybody knows his films, but you always know a Wes Anderson film, right? Like, so it's like being that branded and that particular in terms of my aesthetic. Like, I want folks to come to me because they know I'm going to give them this kind of
Yep.
creative based on, you know what I mean? I want them to have their creative or their vision filtered through me with no holds bars. So it's kind of figuring out what that is and how I can show up strongly like that.
That's why they come to you. They don't come to you just because you have a graphic design background and you're art director.
Yeah.
They come to Billi aesthetic specifically.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever that is, which I'm still working on.
So any qualities of that? Are you just working through it?
I'm working through it. I mean, I like minimal things. I like nature. I like neutrals, as you know, but I also like little bits of color. Everyone says that. Everyone's like, you never have color. And I'm like,
I like bold red wall with all these colors.
they're like, you never have color. You're always wearing black. I'm like, well, I'm from New York. That's what we do. But like, yeah, like I'm working on like, and also pushing myself out of my comfort zone too, as it relates to what I'm comfortable, how I'm comfortable creating. You know what I mean? Like um, I'm just trying to evolve what my creative standards are personally, so
Mhm.
that I can feel comfortable standing behind them when I put them out in the world. So yeah.
Okay, couple questions. How has the pandemic affected your work? What changes, if any, do you anticipate in the industry?
The pandemic has definitely affected, many, many parts of my work. Mostly because a lot of what I do is concept to go to set, and there's no set. So it's a lot of reworking how do we still create and deliver content when we can't create it
Yeah.
traditionally. It's like, a lot of times I'm working with a full set of people, literally, and it's like going in and we have different people doing different things, from like stylists to makeup artists to prop stylists to models to hair, everybody. How we can't do that right now. So, you know, we can't even get on set, to be honest. So it's like, how are we creating content based on where we're at now, where we find ourselves right now? So it's, like I said, I'm working on with a client right now. We're trying to figure out how we give power back to the influencer or the consumer to create content for us, sort of like this user generated content that we give them like the ownership of the creative, and they come back to us with what it is,
Right.
as it relates to the,
Together right now.
what's that?
I was gonna say, because you can't get those people together right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really challenging, actually. It's very challenging. So that's one of the ways. I think on a broader scale, especially with like my most recent folks that I've worked with, like fashion folks, it's changing the landscape of fashion altogether.
Yep.
Like we just wrapped Fashion Week right before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think was the last Fashion Week like that, to be honest, and it was massive. Like we closed out Fashion Week, it was a huge production, like 73 people on stage at once, like just crazy production. This was what my time with Marc Jacobs, but like just a crazy fashion show in itself. I don't think that can anything on that scale can happen anymore for several
Yeah,
reasons. Yeah.
I thought that too, and like I I wonder what it will look like. But the interesting thing is that I think there is talks of this shift in fashion anyway, because you know we've
Hmm.
talked about it, and now I mean then runway was the only place you saw what was coming. It was like you select group of people, but now it's like people see it on the runway and a week later so and so has it on the red carpet of the Golden Globes.
Hmm.
And now it's not just a few people at the shows, it's like anyone, not anyone, but there's lots more people. There's influencers in addition to industry, you know,
Hmm.
executives, and like I it's interesting. I mean, do you have any thoughts on like what you think it could become for the future? Like would there be a fashion week in September?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a fashion week in September. Not like this. No, not like what we've just been seeing. And that, like you said, that's already been changing as of late, even pre-COVID. It costs too much money to put on a fashion show to that extent. And not only just one, but two per year costs a lot of money. And I think it's just kind of uh, it's an old theme. It's an old concept to everyone just adhere to this calendar based on the seasons. But like, that's not even how people are purchasing fashion anymore. Now, fashion is really focused on street style, and that's where it's coming from. And that's why you're seeing like people have like these quick turnarounds of like fast. It's fast fashion, responsible fast fashion, hopefully. But like, you're seeing these quick turnarounds, like something you saw, you know, on set, on the runway in Feb, you'll probably see, if this weren't for COVID, you'd probably see on the street in like a month. So I think in general that landscape is changing, but I think as it relates to COVID and everything going on, obviously it's going to be a lot more digital. I know there was a big digital fashion show, like I think a few weeks ago, that was put on. I forgot the name who put it on, but like I think that's where it's going to go. I think um, it's going to go back to being like these small collections or private viewings and
Mm,
having small gatherings, and it's going to be even more exclusive. It's almost going to go back to being exclusive in a weird way.
right. That makes
um,
sense.
yeah, and I think from that point, like, you know, where designers and buyers and merchants work together to have like showrooms and things like that and previews, it's going to be, maybe that's going to be digital too. That's going to be like virtual showrooms that are you're going to see popping up, and you're going to see like maybe the designer is taking ownership of, you know, having her own photographer come into the showroom and shoot, instead of us putting together this whole editorial song and dance and shooting that. And that's going to, you know, affect, you know, my job and what we do, is that we're not going to have a need for this much editorial pomp and circumstance. It's going to be a very like well, this is what we're going to do with the 5 people we can on set because it's a small gathering.
Yeah,
Let's shoot it, let's send it. I feel like it's definitely going to rely on digital and virtual spaces.
that's a good point. I mean, I think even for my end where, you know, I'm attending the shows and shooting, not necessarily in like the pit with the photographers, but there probably won't be the press pit and like all of those things because,
Hmm.
you know, it's interesting. COVID is force, forcing an abrupt. To your point, I feel like this evolution has sort of been like on the edge of happening anyway. It's just like, okay, now, change now.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what it
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it feels like it's
is.
like, yeah, like you said, it's always been a shift coming, but like it's kind of almost forced. It's like something that we saw coming, but it's like now you really have to take it seriously because, um, but the other part of it is that we did see it coming. Like people have been talking about fashion and the way it's been shifting for a hot minute now. So I think it's just like necessary and it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so are you collaborating with anyone now?
Yeah, I'm collaborating right now with a black hair care brand and working on getting their um, overhauling a little bit their social media, especially like I said, as it relates to this whole stay at home vibe.
Mhm.
So we're working on that right now, and we're ramping up for some Father's Day content as well, which is going to be interesting as it relates to the stay at home situation and Black fathers and um, men at home with their families. So that's going to be really.
But I'm curious.
What's that?
I was
What'd
saying
you
I know
say?
you can't much, but this is really exciting just hearing this part of it. So
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about it. Like it's a new kind of thing for me. So I'm racking my brain about like how do we want to approach this? And like I said, the challenge is how do we create content that typically we would do on set? How do we do that? So that's for me the challenge, but that's who I'm collaborating with right now in terms of client sourcing and doing things like that. And yeah, we have a team of that I'm working with. That is kind of driving like the voice behind that, how we're speaking to the consumer, what we're saying during this time. I think this is a very sensitive time, obviously. So how do we speak to these folks at home
right.
while keeping them positive, um, keeping it fresh, but also, and the other part of it is like, it's about to be summer. It's summer. Like next weekend, someone just reminded me yesterday, next weekend is Memorial Day. Like
That
that's insane.
day tomorrow is Memorial Day.
Right. That's insane. So I'm just like, wow, no one's going anywhere. Like, no one's going to Mexico. Like, no one's doing anything. So,
It's like outside. Can I go
yeah.
outside?
Can I go outside? Just let me just get outside.
Yeah.
So it's about this idea of how do we keep hope alive, but also like keep that summer feeling and that summer vibe, but inside. So that's kind of the narrative I'm trying to play out in my head right now as it
Yeah.
relates to this collaboration I'm working on right now. How do we bring the outdoors inside? How do we feel that summer feeling, especially in New York? Like that's amazing. So how do we get that, summer feeling when we're trapped inside? So
It's interesting because you were talking about the narrative during this time, and I saw some, I'm not sure what their role was, but they put together video clips of like a ton of different ads that have come out since this COVID 19 has, and it actually made me laugh because it's like, first they start with the piano, and it's like four different commercials that have like the slow piano that roll in, and
uh
then they say we've been in it for this long. And so I had to laugh because, yeah, Deidre saw it. Yeah, I was like, I had to laugh because it's like, that's kind of what it is. And like, if a spot like that came out in March, I think one of the first ones I saw was for Las Vegas. And I thought it was
mhm.
creative because I'm telling you, this was like mid March, like probably a week into staying at home. And Vegas was like, we know you don't want to come out right now, but when we do, we're here. And at the time, I was like, yes, Vegas is on it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And fast forward to now, and like, yes, it's super homogenous. Everyone's doing the same thing. So I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
this now, which I think a lot of probably advertising and marketing creatives are, is like, okay, address this time, but how do we do it in a different way? We need to
Mm-hmm.
stand out. We need to still be, I guess, authentic to who we're speaking to, and not just be like, oh, it's that time. We're here for you. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
more than that. There's more to that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? Because like to you guys' point, it is becoming. I haven't seen that video, but I can already picture it in my head. It sounds super. Send it to me. It sounds super homogenous. It's like that's kind of we like the world is already created in this short period of time. We've already gotten into this monotony of homogeny as it relates
Yes.
to
Oh, you're breaking
COVID-19.
up.
So it's like, how do we? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, you're breaking up a little
Hello?
bit. I think so. It's probably like the weather. You're good now, though. I think you're good now.
Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think it's just coming up with, like you said, and that's the challenge. Like everybody's doing this at home thing. How do you do it differently? Um, so yeah, I think, but also the whole thing is like no one knows how to be at home this long. No one knows how to sit in the house for what day are we on? I haven't even been counting,
I
but like
think
no one knows how to sit in the house for 75 days.
I think on 64. I had to write it on a calendar. I was like, one day I will really want to know. So I said
Yeah.
calendar, but yeah, I'm at least at 64. And for not a homebody, that is insane. You could not have told
Yeah.
me that I'd be home 64 days with like other than a walk in the park.
Yeah. 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 It's kind of wild. So it's just like, how do you, and I'm not a homebody, but I enjoy like my home as much as I enjoy being outside. So it's like, how do you bring those two things together,
Yeah.
and make it feel, and then on top of that, make somebody want to buy something because
Right.
why are we buying things? Like, why, there's no reason to buy anything. So it's also like getting into that level of consumerism.
Right. Like, why are we, and not saying we shouldn't, because we definitely want to try and help the economy as much as we can, but like,
Yeah.
got motivated to look at summer. I'm just home. Even when I go out,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she put on real clothes. Go, girl. I have on sweatpants. Like, that's how I feel.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Exactly.
I'm like, I actually want to talk to you a little bit. I don't know if you saw a little bit before we came on. I posted your, I believe it was the MAC campaign with all the different lipsticks.
No, I did not see that one.
From it was
Which
from
one?
your website that has like all, it's like the little gifs of the lips changing.
Oh, yes, yes.
Talk about that. I want to figure out, like, just get into the concept, how you came up with it, and then like even on set, all the way through production, how that came together. It's such a cool
That was,
campaign.
thank you. So that's definitely a collaboration, not just me for sure. I'm not going to take all the credit for that. But like basically it was just brought to my attention that they wanted to, I mean, from a technical perspective, we had to shoot, we have a new we had a new line of lipsticks that we needed to shoot on models, and they internally the models needed to, represent shade, like the three different shades, even though we all know there's a thousand other shades. But these are the three shades that we focus on, which is a whole nother thing in itself. But so these are the three identified shades that they chose to represent, which is like a combination of like a lighter, medium, and dark. So those are the shades. So as told by the brand. So basically we have to shoot that. But MAC is a brand that's known for its artistry and bright and boldness and kind of I don't give a crap attitude. So it's like kind of rebellious attitude. So what we did was we tried to, and on top of that, we were overhauling the ecom platform. So what we did was try to create a sense of like a little bit of storytelling in that 2 second space, that little tiny rectangle, to kind of show you the kind of girl you are that buys this lipstick, right? So basically, like one of the images is like a girl with like a kind of jagged bullet, like a jagged like lipstick bullet tube. So and then she has like a lipstick applicator that's like gunked up with product. So basically what we're saying there is that we wanted to show you like Mac is we're about artistry, we're about, diversity, but also artistry isn't perfect. Artistry is imperfect. And so, even when you see a makeup artist working, she's got colors and paints everywhere. She's painting, she's creating, she's working on a palette. So it's like, so, a lot of times I'll see makeup artists with like swatches on their hands. So it's basically, and then she's like messing up she's getting into the product. So it's like, we wanted to show that visually, but also show the product color as well as show the inclusivity across the board. So I think that was the story behind showing Mac's artistry. We're kind of messy, we're kind of funny, we're kind of funky, we're kind of bold and like kind of erratic. And that's kind of where we got that idea from, because if you scroll down and you see more of those like little gifs, some of them are like the girl, like she has like a little Sour Patch candy and she's like gritting her teeth because she's like a badass, right? And she's pulling it and she's like going, yeah, whatever, this is my lipstick, it's popping. And then she's got this candy, she's like, I'm a badass. So it's like telling these little bits of story helps like kind of further round out the narrative of who our consumer is. So that's where we were trying to go with that. And that's kind of the story behind that.
That's awesome. Let everyone know your website if they want to check out more of your.
It's Billi, Billi Alexander. Wait, no, that's not it. Sorry, I was giving my ID. It's BilliAlexander.com. Billi R. Alexander. It's either BilliRAlexander.com or BilliAlexander.com. It's my portfolio site. Sorry, guys. I will post it. I will put it here as well too. But yeah, it's Billi R. Alexander is my IG. Billi Alexander is my .com. Yes.
So
but if you go to, sorry, go ahead. No,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you go to any of these brands, like if you were to go to like a marcjacobs.com, you would see like everything that I've shot, like in terms of like the ecom platform, like in, not super editorial.
What are some
What's
things
that? Sorry?
You said we'd see everything you've shot. What are some things you've done for Marc Jacobs that we'll see?
Well, no, it's like the ecom stuff. So it's like if you go on the site, not so much the editorial stuff, but the ecom stuff, it's like all of that, like when you get on the site, all the actual product photography, working with models, like the really super branded stuff that you see on the site. That's what me and my team shot right before COVID. But that's kind of stuff that we do. And then we did like a campaign for a new bags, some new spring bags that launched. So you might see those, like if you go to Marc Jacobs on like IG, if you go to it enough times, you'll see the ads pop up. And it's like this really fun animation of showing like how many things can fit inside of a bag. So it's just promotion of our new bag line for spring. So yeah, so that's what I just did at Marc Jacobs. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna ask you too about Little Marc.
Oh my God, Little Marc was so fun. That's like my favorite project. We had a lot of fun with that. Hey, Gail. We had a lot of fun with that because we didn't, Little Marc doesn't kind of adhere to any kind of standard, except for the,
right?
What's that?
It's division of Marc Jacobs. That's Little Marc, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the kids pillar of there's several different pillars of Marc, but the kids pillar is Little Marc. So anyway, didn't adhere to anything, any kind of brand standards. So the ask was it was basic. It was to shoot the spring summer collection for kids ages 7 to 10. So basically we found these kids. I partnered with some other folks that are on the team as well to cast a nice kind of broad spectrum of kids. And listen, I tried to get, I'm so mad it didn't, like, there's so many things that happen before you see what you see. Like we pitched like 5 different concepts. I mean, I tried to get the team to go to Venice Beach. I tried to get the team to, let's go to Coney Island, me and my co-creative director, Gio. We tried to get the kids to go to like arcades. We tried everything because the whole thing was the story behind it is that thank you. So that's the story behind that was that, we're shooting this stuff before you guys see it in store, which means if we're shooting a spring summer campaign, we got to shoot it in, when it's cold in February, January, for it to hit stores and at least our wholesalers and our wholesale teams, at least to hit by early March, because that's spring, right?
Yeah, but just to kind of piggyback off that, because it's not just the shooting, it's like then you have to get the selects from the photographer and make your
Mm-hmm.
then the teams have to create the posters or the digital assets or everything. So
Mm-hmm.
long process. It's not just like, oh, we shoot it, it's ready. It's like a process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Like that's half the battle right there. It's like once you get the creative, now we've got to actually produce it and execute it. And that execution is across the board from video, because there's some video pieces that we shot, which is a whole nother part of it. But there's some video, like you said, we have to create ads for it. We have to create paid ads as well as like static ads. There's so many pieces that are involved because it's a full 360 campaign. And then we have to work with like the photographers and retouchers. That's a whole nother thing too, is like retouching is a whole other part of this. You know that life. Obviously. So but yeah, that campaign was really fun. We had a little bit more of a budget with that one, but not a lot. So but we made it work because we were partnering with a licensee company. But we shot that like right down the block from me in Clinton Hill. And basically the idea behind that was a these kids that are just kind of coming home after school, and like they're all at one kid's house, and they're all just coming home after school and playing, like that's it, and then keeping each other's like minds activated. And these kids have a sense of like magical curiosity,
Yeah.
that because we also had to stay true to the Marc brand. And that brand is, you know, Marc, he's Marc, he's very like iconic, he's New York, he's
Mhm.
very edgy in his own little way. So the kids kind of had to have that same vibe, but as a kid. So, you know, we all know like that little edgy kid that has something to say and he's super sassy and you just like let him go on about his business. So those are the kinds of rambunctious kids we tried to find.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the story behind that casting. Yeah, and we tried to get like a nice kind of um, overarching feel for the kids. And I really, really, in my heart of hearts, tried to get a little girl. What's that?
Sorry, someone closed the trash
Oh,
can.
I didn't hear anything. I really tried to get a little girl that kind of reminded me as of you and me, like being little girls, like running in the street or whatever. And it didn't work out. And that's the thing. That's a challenge, right? There's so much that goes on behind a campaign that you don't know. Like I would have loved to that little girl that when I look at that campaign, I say, oh my God, that's me when I was 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years old. Unfortunately, due to logistics, that did not work out. So a lot of times you'll see something out in the world, but you don't know what went on behind that and behind those scenes. So, but anyway, it still came out really cute. And
So
then we shot a video component to go with it. Thank you. No, it was like one of my favorite projects, actually. We shot a video component to go out to go with it with this up and coming filmmaker, Belle Smith, who has shot with like Stella, and I think she shot with Marc before too. So she just had this really cool kind of vision in terms like the way she edits and looks at things is really cool. And then the inspiration that we worked on together with that is like we wanted it to feel a little fantastical. We wanted it to feel a little like I said, curious and magical. So you'll see like little moments of like superpowers that these kids have and things coming from looking like they're like kind of floating or like they're making things happen or they're just being, you know, little rascals of sorts. And I thought we really liked, I don't know if you've ever seen the film. It's a Spike Jonze film. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Where the Wild Things Are, his adaptation of
I have
that kind of children's book.
talking about.
Yeah, but it's like that book already is like super like
Right.
fantastical. And that's, I don't know if that's a real word, but I like that word. I use it a lot. But like that book is already super fantastical, and like it kind of takes you to this surreal world between like real life and like where you want to be in fantasy. So I wanted to bring that vibe into the video. And Belle, the way she shoots is super, that's how she shoots already. And if you look at some of her work for Stella McCartney, you'll see like it's very similar in vibe and tone. Like the kids are floating and doing weird stuff. So yeah, like so that's the kind of vibe we wanted to go with, especially through the way that Spike Jonze did it. He's very like all of his stuff is super kind of out there and just it takes the ordinary and makes it even more like just weird.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of vibe we wanted to do with it, but still keep it approachable because we're not selling to the kids, we're selling to their moms. So we don't want the moms to think, you know, like what is this? So yeah, so that was my favorite part of that. And like you said, like we got the content, but it took a long time to get the content from what you see to, just bones. So putting it all together.
Right. Yeah, Deidre and Rob definitely love Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah.
And Spike Jones too, his style.
Yeah, yeah. His stuff is very whimsical and cool. Yeah.
But for that, you found sort of an up and coming filmmaker. So in your position, you're hiring photographers, filmmakers, where do you find the talent that you're hiring?
A lot of times it's like kind of just getting in there and doing the work based on people you follow on social, that obviously plays a big influence on it. People that are on my team, they brought some people to my opinion, like in terms of Belle, like she was brought to my knowledge through a co-collaborator on this project as well, another creative director. So he brought her to me because he had worked with her in the past and she had partnered with some photographers at Marc. And everybody loved her and loved her vision and her everything about her. And actually, having spoken to colleagues that aren't even affiliated with Marc Jacobs, everybody really loves this person. I didn't know she was such an emerging talent. She's so dope. So it's speaking to other people who are like-minded and getting ideas from them and saying, oh, who would be good, like speaking about your idea and your vision and saying, oh, who'd be good for that. So like just talking, like having the conversation and networking and talking, you say, oh, I know whose style kind of emulates what you're trying to go for. Let me see if I can put you guys in touch. So it's a lot of that kind of thing, like saying out loud what you have in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like I follow a lot of different people online, but then I'm also like reading magazines and seeing what other competitors are doing and who they're shooting with, or like based on how we're trying to shoot, I'll just do my research and like look around at, look at people's portfolios. I'll go to like the industry resource for like photographers, uh ad folks, creative directors, art directors, designers, photographers, like everybody, and stylists. There's like several creative resources where everybody and all they put all of their work on the site, and then you can see who is available and if their vibe matches your vibe, or if their tone of voice matches your tone of voice, or this lighting matches that lighting that you're trying to conceive. So it's a lot of just seeing who's out there and if it matches your vision and it all coming together. And also, so that's the inspiration part of it and the exploration part of it. But then there's also like the technical part of it. Like, do they have the budget? Do we have the budget to afford this person? Um, can we fly this person from the UK? I mean, there was one time I was working with a client and we didn't have a big budget,
Mhm.
but the vibe I saw from him, like his aesthetic was really cool, but he was based in London. So I'm like, hey guys, can we get him over here? So we just try to make it work. And thankfully we made it work, but it's like it's not just like visuals, like because so that means I have to come child, but that means I have to come with several options,
Right.
like it's not always going to be this person is perfect for this role. Okay, they're booked, we're ready to go. Sometimes they're not available. Sometimes they don't want to partner. Sometimes we don't want to. Like, there's so many logistics involved with it, and that's where having a producer comes into play,
Yep.
because producers know how to talk and like talk that talk and make it all work. So I think that's what makes it feel. If you have like a dope producer, good project managers, good people around you that can help take your vision into actual production and make it actually happen.
Right.
Because art directors and creatives, and we live in like the bubble of just, oh, that would be really cool, I would love to see
Right.
that, and then you need
Somehow.
somehow let's make it happen, and then you need people to help you actually execute on that stuff, because if you can't execute, then what's the point of the vision? So
Okay, so we
yeah.
have about a minute left, a little.
Yes.
So just any other final thoughts or advice you would give someone who wants to get into the fashion and beauty industry as like art director, creative director? Any thoughts from you on that?
Yeah, I would just say to continue to surround yourself with inspiration it moves you and that's authentic to you. Like I said, you have to create from a space of authenticity. If it doesn't move you, then you're not going to have fun doing it, and
Yep.
that passion isn't going to come through. Like you really have to have passion for what you're presenting and the ideas you're putting out there, because you have to stand behind it. So if it's not authentic to you, if it's not close to your heart, then you need to really like look for inspiration and look for things that tap into that place. Collect those things, sit with it, live with it all the time, just be involved in it at all points. Just really kind of get into it. And then, oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's so weird. Yeah. So yeah, just I would say,
I don't know.
sorry,
I was
what'd you say?
down over there too. There's like 10 seconds left.
Yeah. I would say just hone into your vision and like what your inspiration was, and hold that tight